So excited to welcome Anne Ruthmann here. She is a creative entrepreneur. She has been since 2005, I believe, so a while. And she has been through a whole series of exploring a bunch of different creative facets in her life, from marketing to photography to portraits to what else is on this list. You had a ton of things on here that you've done. Commercial photography for architecture firms, which is near and dear to my heart, music. So she has explored a lot of facets of the creative entrepreneur life and has dealt with a lot of the ins and outs of what it takes to start and build a successful creative business. And so now today, she also consults, and actually has been for a while, consults helping other creative entrepreneurs on their journey. So why don't, Anne, if you can take it from there and elaborate on anything that I maybe missed, that would be fantastic.
So in the creative life of, building a business, I also moved a lot of times. I moved my photography business for every kind of iteration of my husband trying to find his ideal work as well. And so through that process, I learned a lot about starting up, building quickly, getting your team, getting your audience, getting your clients real quickly. And so that's kind of been my experience over the last 13 to 15 years now. I started full time in 2005, but I started in 2004. And so during that process, I've also had a lot of people reach out to me about, hey, how did you do that? How did you figure that out? How can you help me do that? And so that has been building as well during working as a creative myself. And so this last year I decided, I really want to focus on a couple aspects of creative business that are really not focused on and that kind of have this nebulous quality to them, but to me can be done very clearly and very precisely, but the industry doesn't quite make room for it. And so for me, that's pricing. Like a lot of people kind of have these fuzzy wuzzy ways of figuring out pricing, or they go based on business books, which are built for commodity-based businesses or retail businesses, which don't necessarily apply for a lot of creative entrepreneurs. And so I actually retired from photography last year so I could actually dedicate time to creating a pricing workbook. This year I thought I was going to spend all my time doing that, and I ended up spending all of my time traveling instead. So
that's not bad.
Yeah. It's great. It's a great way to kind of retire from photography. But in the process, I'm about 2/3, three-quarters done with the pricing workbook. So that's what I'm working on finishing right now in terms of my creative energy, as well as, I'm also, I also do Reiki healing, which is I kind of had to choose between, was I going to dedicate a lot of energy to photography, which I felt I had already built out in a really full way and learned everything I wanted to learn, or did I want to dedicate more energy to kind of building this new thing and learning about building a business in a healing field, which is, I have to say, I thought creative business was a challenge to build, but there are so many barriers in healing businesses. So many, psychological barriers for people about building healing businesses. It's a totally new challenge, and I'm up for it. And the healing outcomes I've seen for clients are amazing, and it's phenomenal. So it's really cool work too. So yeah, that's a little bit about where I am, what I'm working on, and yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. So you're focusing on pricing. We've got a lot of people that are interested in hearing about pricing. So before we started this call, I was telling you that I had a number of people that reached out and were like, yes, I need to know more about pricing, but didn't have specific questions. And I find that actually it's kind of really telling, because it's pricing is sort of this thing where it's I know I have to get it right. It really matters. But I don't even know what to ask. I don't even know where to start. I don't know if what I have is right. And quote, right, is there anything ever right? But, it's this thing that is kind of just exactly like you said. It's is there a concrete system where I've done a formula and reached the right answer? Or is this something that's more like an intuitive process to come up with what works for me and then hope that it lands with my audience? So let's start with, I guess, in that line, what are the top struggles you see people dealing with in terms of pricing?
I think the number one thing I see over and over again is the question of, is my pricing right? Is the price right? And obviously, right is a very nebulous thing in a lot of people's minds. Some people think right is something that is determined by the market. Some people think right is something that is, going to make them $1 million. Some people think right is the thing that will just pay the bills. So how you define right is almost as much a part of whether it's right or not as determining what that is. So I found that if I can at least get people to a place where they understand what they need, like where they're supporting their creative life in a sustainable, positive way that allows room for growth, if I can at least get people to that place, then they have the baseline understanding of right in terms of how can I have a creative business that both supports itself and allows room for growth in the future. And when people don't get that right, they fail. They fail quickly, they fail hard, they burn out because they're not getting to that place of knowing what that sustainable right number is. Like, you can grow from there. You can go to the $1 million, spectrum, wherever you want to go. But if you don't know what the right is when it comes to your own personal sustainability, then you're not going to get to the next level. So I found that there's like really concrete, simple things that we can do. We can start from where people already are. We can start from the numbers they already know, their basic bills like rent, groceries, stuff like that. We can start from the place of knowns in order to walk to the place of unknowns, which is like how does what I'm paying in rent translate to what I need to charge for this service or this product?
Totally. And that is fascinating. So I'm like kind of starting to not do the math in my head, but understand your process a little tiny bit. So how does that apply to, say someone does this work best with people that have kind of an existing track record in terms of number of clients and things like that? Or if someone's just starting out for the first time and they don't have any clients, and their inclination probably, I'm guessing you're going to say, is to charge close to nothing to try to bring in clients, but maybe not, I don't know. How does that math work out, right?
Yeah, so it's interesting because people will start out charging nothing or giving it away to determine whether they or not they have interest, right? But what they learn in that place of not charging anything and not having a price on their work and not having a sustainable price on their work, what they are learning is who wants their work for free, right? They're not learning who wants to value.
They're building a discount customer base. Yeah.
And you can, that's great if your goal is to give your work away. That's great if your goal is to just have eyeballs on your work. But that's not great if what you want is a sustainable creative business, right? So what you have to really start, if you want a sustainable creative business, where you have to start from is a place of charging what you need to charge for creative sustainable business. And people can start from ground zero, having no experience with their product, no experience with their offering, no experience with their service, and get to a price that makes them both like so confident in like, I have to charge this. Like, if this is the work I want to do, I have to charge at least this in order to, move forward from here.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that like the pricing workbook helps people work through, is that like, I have to at least start here. Now you could start from nothing. You can start from zero. You can start from not charging and work your way up to the point of sustainability, but to at least know what that is, to know where that is. And then to move yourself into a client realm of people who value you at that level. It's less about the clients and it's more about ourselves. You know, so many times people get into that place of like, no one wants to pay for my work. Well, have you ever tried to like ask for a price? Have you ever tried to reach the client who really does value original work and values working with creatives and small businesses? If you're not trying to reach those people and the people you've been reaching all along are the free or discounted people, yeah, you're not going to have a sense of who those people really are.
Yeah, totally. So that's kind of this may be a little bit of a tangent, but one of the things I've been hearing lately from a lot of creatives in my network and a lot of designers in particular, like graphic designers, people like that, and like higher end photographers, is it's super, super hard to find people that value and want to pay for quality creative work. And so I'm just curious on your take on that, since you've been through so many iterations of businesses. And I actually would challenge that in that it's not hard. It's like a personal limiting belief that you see what you want to see, and it's more of a confidence issue possibly, but I would love your take on that.
Yeah, I agree that there are so many reasons why people either find it hard to find their ideal client or have a hard time reaching them. But we also still have to acknowledge that there is, like the economy itself, there's a pyramid structure at play here, right? There are a lot of people who can afford free, right?
Yeah.
You can put
everyone.
And there are fewer people who value paying for something, mm-hmm. right? And then there are even fewer people who value something to the extent that they will pay thousands of dollars for it, right?
Yep.
And that's why, there are only so many Ferraris made per year versus so many Priuses made per year, right? There's a very natural cycle of high end to free. And so when you look at that, you just have to determine where you are in that pyramid of economy. I would say that one of the issues that we have in the creative field is that we have so many people in the place of free, that it actually kind of in a way does bring down the level of opportunity for people to pay for it. So one of my goals with the pricing workbook is to help creatives understand, like, okay, sustainability actually needs to start here, not here. And right now we kind of have a cycle that puts people in a sustainability place at a higher level. But if we had more people understanding what sustainability is for a creative business, then I think that we would have more people understanding why they should value it also at that level. So I think it's twofold. One, there's an economic, natural, quality to pricing, but then there's also how many people in the market are not valuing the work they do. That also creates part of that as well.
So I have two questions that are coming up for me with regard to this. One, something that I'm thinking of now that I just would want to put out there and sort of get your feedback on. So my husband is an architect. I think we briefly talked about that. Sorry guys, I have this. As the interview goes, I'm just going to rotate.
We'll eventually get a 360 view of your space.
See my whole house by the end. Okay, so my husband is an architect, and as a whole, the architecture profession has this thing that happens, and actually it happens with every single creative industry, I think, where people are vying for good work, and the inclination from a lot of architects, hence a lot of creatives, is to lower their price to compete on price. And this, obviously, we know it's like a race to the bottom, but he is constantly frustrated in that if he's going after big projects like RFPs for like museums and big stuff, he's drastically discounting his prices because that's what all the other firms are doing. And so it becomes this place where, and I've seen this a lot too in other facets of the creative industry, is all of a sudden the price isn't reflecting the quality of work that you do or the time that you've spent in the industry growing your reputation and growing your your niche. All of a sudden it's being driven by this kind of fear factor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of his biggest pet peeves ever, and he's like on a mission he wants to like create like a price structure where architects, their pricing is this, like nobody should fall below certain lines, and you have a certain experience, like everyone should come together and agree and say like we're not going to do this anymore, because it hurts the whole profession as a whole. It drags everyone down because all of a sudden everyone's, like, anyway. So that sort of came to me, and that does occur, I think, across the board a lot with photographers. It takes a certain clientele to like rise above that and have that stuff not matter.
Part of it too is how much education the client has around the product, around the service, right?
Yes.
And one of the issues with an RFP system, request for proposal, if for anyone who doesn't know what that means, and we kind of treat the internet in general as like an RFP. Like
totally.
when people are price shopping online or they're service shopping online, I should say, they tend to forget the importance of the education behind the proposal. And so like as an architect, you really have to find a way to understand what the client values, right? There may be a client whose board values price above all the other things, and then they're going to make a decision based on price. And so then it takes somebody coming in and saying, can I just sit down with you for, an hour of your time to understand how important the quality of these materials and the quality of the build is to you, so that I can make a proposal that is really going to meet the needs of the quality that you're looking for. And then that's when you can really introduce something like, okay, well, at this budget, we'll be using a steel that is only rated for 50 years. How does that line up with your goals for the organization? At this budget, we'll be using a steel, and we'll be using a type of welding and a type of build that is going to be rated for 200 years. Which one of these aligns better with your anticipation of whether you're going to live long in this building as an organization or whether you're going to take this a lot further? And but it takes effort. You can't, it's like, but that effort is worth it when you're working with a high-end client, right? What you're going after is a $10 million project, or more, you need to take that time to understand the client's desire for a quality product. And then when you've taken that time, they also then feel more connected to you. And the fact that you're listening to them and the fact that you really have an interest in what they want, and then they become attached to working with you as a professional because you've taken the time to do more than just the RFP. You've taken the time to do more than just do a price quote. You're actually quoting out the appropriate materials and the appropriate quality of build as well. Now, not everybody's an architect, obviously. So how do we do that as a photographer or as a graphic designer? It's still about taking that time to understand the client's need, right? And that's why you can't run a high-end number in the same way that you run a discounted number. A discounted number is just for an online sale. Now, a really smart creative can take that discount number and then walk their client from the discounted place to a much higher place. But they still have to go through the process of having that conversation about quality, about value, about service, and really demonstrating a care for what is important to the client.
Oh, so you just totally intrigued me. So I have like all these questions swirling. Okay, so but let's since you just mentioned it, can you give us an example of walking a client from a discounted number to a high-end number, and how someone would do that, why someone would even set it up in a way where they would do that, as opposed to just starting off with a high-end number?
Yeah.
What's the strategy kind of that you're referring to here?
Okay, so one of the things that I noticed with certain clients was that they were willing to walk in there's the factor of unknowns, right? And when they don't want to spend a lot of upfront money, it's because there's so many unknowns about whether they're going to get a good product, whether they're going to get good service. And when they come from that place of unknowns, their investment level is much smaller to begin with. Mm-hmm. That's why like high-end prices have to come through a series of referrals from trusted people, or have to come from a deep experience with the artist or the creative in whatever way, because there's already trust there, right? So are you starting from a place of lack of trust, lack of experience as well with the product that you're offering? If you're a wedding photographer, has your client been married before? Probably not. So what experience do they have with actually hiring a wedding photographer? They maybe have seen like some of their friends' photos. If you're hiring a graphic designer, what experience do you have with hiring a designer? Have you ever had to shop designers in your life? And do you have friends who are designers? I would say the chance is very small for most people who need a designer. So the walking in the door at a small level is like, okay, let's say I'm noticing across the board, people are offering this $300 offer. And gosh, that just seems really unsustainable for what they're mentioning is included in that $300 offer. But I know that it only takes me maybe half a day to create this offer for $300. And if it looks amazing and the client loves it, I know that they're also going to want X, Y, and Z afterward that will also increase that number from 300 to 1,500. And so that's where you really have to look at like, okay, so here's the market number that's out there and what people are saying is with it. And I can compete perhaps on that if I also give the education that goes along with it.
And build the trust along the way and get to know them and listen and appreciate them and all that stuff.
Yeah, with the trust and building that in. Yeah.
That is amazing. So when you walk people through the process of doing that, do you recommend that they do that $300 service first, they prove their value, they show up, they do an amazing job, and then they follow up with other things later? Or is that in a conversation to begin with?
I think it depends on like what the scope of the work is, right? So like if somebody wants a website, but that investment is, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is for what they're asking for, but they're only like answering to budgets of 300. First of all, you may not compete in that space. If you're at 3,000, 5,000, that may not be a reasonable competition. But I would say to move people to 3 to 5 times the price is a pretty easy ask. So
okay, that's good to know. So 3 to 5 times is realistic.
It is realistic, yeah. Okay. Depending on what the type of work you're doing is. You can also do it by like limiting time. Like you can say, okay, well, we'll start you out at 300, see how far we can get with 300, or like with 300 is, I don't know, like 9 hours of time included, which I'm not doing the math right now. That doesn't sound reasonable, but
whatever it is,
whatever it is.
For conversation's sake. Yeah.
Yeah. And then after that, you can say, we'll see how far we can get in that time. Or I know that I can produce a first draft at this number, right? And so all I'm guaranteeing you is a first draft at this number. Now, you may love the first draft so much that it's considered your final product. And if that's the case, you're definitely coming back to me for more design work because you found so much value in this $300 price point, right?
Right.
However, if we get to a place where you like still need 100 revisions from that price point, okay, well, do we have a good enough relationship and a good enough starting draft and framing it, in a draft format that we then can build from there? So in photography, it was like, I had certain clients who I knew really needed a bank of 30 images, but their price point really only allowed them to kind of pay me to show up. And so I was like, look, I'll include 3 images or 2 images or 1 image to just show up at this rate. And then, but I'll photograph a bank of 30 or a bank of 50. And if you want to buy more, you can buy more. And that really does compensate me for the amount of work that I'm going to be putting into the images. And so I found that people were much more receptive to that than to like walking in at 15 or 3 or 5. And so we were able to kind of negotiate that space. And as a professional, I provided great quality, and they were able to see like, no, I want everything. I really want everything. Even though I said I thought I only wanted 1 or 2 or 3. No, I want it all.
Yeah, that's amazing. So this is reminding me of, I'm just going to share this little anecdote, and then I'm checking the clock here because I know I want to respect everyone's time. So I started listening to the Seth Godin book, This Is Marketing. Have you read it at all?
I have not read that one. I mean, I've read a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so it's his newest one, and he gives this example. I'm not that far in, but he gives this example of really, they're selling really affordable reading glasses to, I can't remember where it is, maybe somewhere in India. And it's like, for $1, someone can all of a sudden see to read, where people are walking around not being able to see. And like, based on their economic situation, $1 for these glasses is like no brainer. That everyone, if it's like giving you the gift of sight, everyone understandably would probably say yes. And so he sets up this thing where they set up a booth and people come to learn about the glasses. There's all these glasses out on the table, and then they tell them, it's $1. Do you want these glasses to be able to see? And the majority of people said no. They walked away and said no. And he was so confused about like, why are people saying no to this? It doesn't make any sense at all. And then he changed the situation where he removed all of the glasses from the table. He put 1 pair of glasses on the table and had people come one at a time. And he put the glasses on them. And then he said, for $1, you can take these home and be able to see forever, or you can give them back to me. Which do you prefer? And then all of a sudden, everyone paid $1 and kept the glasses. And it's totally that, because it's giving them a taste, what you're talking about. It's giving people a taste, and it's giving them the value without them having to pay up front. And then they understand it and want to give you the money instead of that risk.
Yeah. So like, you could be like, okay, well, at this price point, I can scope out, or I can do this amount of work, but you have to know too, as a creative, like, what is that? What's the minimal work with the maximum impact that will then generate continued relationship, continued client purchasing?
Yeah, totally. So I have a number of people in my community who sell tangible goods, also artists who sell prints, like it kind of runs the gamut, but a lot of like makers and things like that. Does your strategy apply to that as well, or is it mostly service-based businesses?
Absolutely applies also to a product. And so actually I have I'm like, can you see these things up here? Sort of a little bit. Yeah. Anyway, so up here in the corner, up here. Yeah.
The shadow box kind of ones?
Yeah, in the shadow box. You can maybe kind of see. Anyway, there's a little egg. And that's from an artist who actually does totally different things. But we started with one of her products, purchased just one as kind of like an ornament for Christmas, right? Or we purchased it for some other totally different purpose, but an ornament, right?
Yeah.
She can create an ornament every year, and we can become a continued like, oh yes, we need our next edition of her ornament because we love her product. Yeah. And that entry into that first one was quite small, right? But now we are becoming regular customers, and sometimes she creates really expensive ornaments, and sometimes she creates custom ones for her clients. And that's really like where the product-based business kind of turns into something much bigger, is that they've created this easy to create multiple thing that they can sell to many people at a lower price point, but they've already done the math to know what is sustainable for their business and for their creative life.
Yeah.
And then they get into a place where they develop the following of people who love their work, want to support them as an artist, maybe want custom work done for an anniversary, for a birthday, for, you know, whatever. And so they plant those seeds over time, like, here's this next edition of this product that you already love, and or here's some examples of custom ones that have been done for people. And then that's where you can get into the like, okay, well, initially they only paid $20, but now they want a custom one. So they know it's going to be more like $200 to $400. And, you know, when people already love your work and they're already investing in it, even in a small way, they feel obviously it's much more special when it's custom for them.
Yes, I love that. And so that also reminds me of, I have a client that I was talking with recently, and she does stationery designer. And she was talking about doing like a box subscription kind of thing where once a month someone gets a subscription box and there's cards and stuff in there, which I love the idea of, but that's a perfect example of someone who has maybe bought a card here and there is the entry point, and then a membership is kind of one of the next steps up in a more consistent ongoing thing. Few people
you have to really, like, is your product something that people want many times a year? Is your product something people want once a year? Is your product, like, you have to know the why behind people purchasing your product. Are they purchasing it because it makes them feel good? Is just having that one object sitting on their desk all they need in life?
Right.
Or is your product something that, you know, they want many of and they want to use and they want to, you know, kind of consume in a way that makes them want more of it?
Right. Totally. Okay. So I want to start sort of shifting into, you have this workbook you've mentioned a number of times. I know it's not done.
It's not finished yet.
But I'm sure that after watching this, a lot of people are going to be like, I need this freaking workbook, because there actually are a whole lot more questions that to come full circle, here's all the questions that I didn't know that I had to begin with about pricing. So how can, well, people can't fully get their hands on it because it's not done, but how can people connect with you to stay in touch about when it's done, or what's the best way for people to get more information from you about this? Because I'm sure that people are going to be super interested.
Well, right now, most of this sharing is happening just on like Instagram, Anne Ruthmann, ANNE, RUTHMANN, or Facebook, Anne Ruthmann, ANNE, RUTHMANN. Like, how do I spell my name?
And I'll also share that with people. I'll share links.
Yeah. And you can also email me, same thing, AnneRuthmann@gmail.com. Right now, and I would love to offer this for your group and for anyone in your group who wants to start, I am kind of beta testing the workbook, and I need people who actually want to try it, because I would like to have a few more people walk through the process and see if it's clear before I start selling it publicly to more people. So I can actually give access to the first part to people in your group if they would like to email me about that. So email me. That would probably be the best way up front. And then I would provide access to a Google Doc that they can copy to their own Google Docs and then try step by step the beginning part of the process.
Yay. I'm sure people are going to be all about that. So yes. I will definitely share that email and those instructions to everybody in case people miss that. Are there any sort of closing thoughts that you want to leave people with, or advice that you have for people before we say goodbye?
Don't give up. I feel like that's, no matter how long we've been in business as a creative, there's always that thought of like, should I go work for somebody else right now? I feel like that could just be so much easier, especially in those procrastination moments, right? Of like, there's this big project, this client that's frustrating me, or this particular type of project I feel like I can't get through. Don't give up. Just don't give up. Keep going.
Yes. Amen. Amen. I personally have had those moments more in the times of like, things aren't fully working, but I can't put my finger on why not. Like maybe it's pricing, or maybe it's I don't have enough eyeballs, or maybe I need a bigger network, or maybe my website is off. Like your brain can go to a million places why. And then the answer is always like, or I could go get a job. But I totally agree. I totally agree. Do not give up. Like it's worth the struggle. Promise. I promise. I promise.
Absolutely.
And Anne is here for you. I'm here for you. If you're in that place, don't do it. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today, and all of your knowledge and all of your gifts, and also that amazing free offer to get started on the workbook. I'm sure people are going to take you up on that. So
that would be great.
I'm just super thankful that you've been here and that you can make time, because I know that you're traveling a lot and you're all over the place.
Next will be Savannah, and then Michigan, and then Missouri, and then maybe California. We'll see. I don't know.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm a little bit tied down with 2 small children, so I'll just live vicariously through all of your travels. Okay, so we're going to say goodbye, and thank you for everyone that's listened, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday season.
Yes, thank you. You too. And I hope that everybody out there is can have a beautiful, wonderful time of self-care in between December and New Year.
Yes, I totally agree. Okay, we'll talk later. Bye, Anne.
Bye.